بسم الله والابن والروح القدس إله واحد امين. تحل علينا نعمته وبركته من الان والابد امين. احنا فرحانين طبعا النهارده في اجتماع الاسره بيكون معانا الدكتور باسم جوهر. هو يعني زي استاذ مساعد في جامعه جويلث، ليه علاقه بالحاجات الامور الخاصه بالحاجات النفسيه. مش عارف يعني هيبقى هو النهارده احنا هنستفيد من التخصص بتاعه في انه يدينا نصائح تربويه خاصه بالاطفال وسن المراهقه. طبعا كلنا بنبقى محتاجين، حتى لو عيالنا كبروا شويه برضو بنبقى محتاجين دايما نسمع حاجات كتيره عن المواضيع دي، لان بتفرق معانا في التربيه بتاعتنا، تاثيرنا على اولادنا او حتى على احفادنا لو احفادنا بيبقوا عايشين معانا او قريبين مننا. فدي برضه بركه كبيره، ربنا يعوضه ونحاول نستفيد على قد ما نقدر النهارده، ونخلي الاسئله في الاخر لو اي حد عنده اي سؤال. اكيد بعد ما باسم يخلص هي يعني هي يسمع كل الاسئله. اتفضل يا باسم، اتفضل يا حبيبي.
Thank you, Abuna. God bless you, and thanks for inviting me. أنا هحاول أتكلم عربي ساعتها عشان أنا I know some people
Yeah, it's
prefer
okay. In mix is okay.
ماشي.
Okay.
I'm just gonna share my screen, and I don't think I'll be able to see you. Asana, like my big computer has 3 screens, but it's the oh, I think it's working now. If you guys can just give me 2 seconds, I can try to just get it. It will just be a lot easier.
Yeah, sure.
For some reason, it was frozen for a while. But if I can get this running.
Yeah,
okay,
no problem. Take your time, حبيبي.
Yeah, I'm gonna log out and log back in, okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay,
stop التسجيل يا
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, okay. انت بتقدري توقفي التسجيل يا مريم، مش كده؟ يا مريم معانا ولا؟
Okay, sorry about that.
لا it's okay يا حبيبي.
Much better. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Okay. So, hello everyone. أنا اسمي باسم, and Abuna, thanks for introduction. لو ما قابلتنيش before, I used to come to Brampton Church all the time when I was a kid, but I moved, so that's why I don't come as frequently. But the Archangel Michael and Saint Tekla still, I consider it still my home church. So النهارده أنا هتكلم على just some suggestions and tips on parenting مع الأطفال والadolescents. بس قبل ما أبدأ, and I just want to say, you are the expert on your child. I am not the expert on your child, okay? I don't know your child. So there's no way that I can tell you something that is exactly your child, okay? And sometimes recommendations أو tips اللي أنا هقولها ممكن حد يقول ده بيحلم, or يعني دي مش يعني it's not practical, and that's okay. The point here is I am giving you the textbook, يعني ده اللي بالكتاب, and it's really hard to apply sometimes. In ساعات we have emotions, we get frustrated وكده, ف sometimes it's easy to do it's easy to do the easy things, which can be frustrating. So please keep that in mind. And then recommendations or tips that I'm offering is based on basically textbook, and sometimes it is really hard to apply, but with practice it will be better. Another thing too is I don't do the Egyptian way. The Egyptian way is great. I was raised Egyptian, and I think I turned out okay. But it's not that it's bad. I just think sometimes we get, the kids today are exposed to different things that maybe you and I were not exposed to when we were younger. So that changes a lot of things as well. As Abuna قال I'm happy to answer questions at the end. It doesn't necessarily mean I can answer your question, but I will try. And I'm happy to have even discussions afterwards and just have a fruitful conversation. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. I'm going to share my screen now. Abuna, can you just give me permission once again? Okay, thank you. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Bاسم, yeah.
Okay, great. What do you see? Do you see like the presenter mode or the viewer mode?
Presenter.
Presenter, okay. Let me change that. Okay, and how about now?
Viewer.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're gonna do some just parenting tips and so on. So we will be dealing with, we will discuss dealing with youth in different age groups. Obviously the approach أو الطريقة هتتغير من واحد صغير قوي أو واحد أكبر شوية، بس المسج at the end is the same. Okay. فأنا هبدأ أنا عملت البرزنتيشن دي على فكرة قبل كده for the servants, and I didn't change much علشان المسج is almost the same. So if you were a servant and you attended this, I'm sorry if you're seeing this again, but it is a good refresher. So I will start with a discussion, and because I can't really see people, everyone has their cameras off. You're welcome to just unmute yourself and just tell me what you think. Okay, so I want to know what your view is. So tell me, which one do you believe is more relatable? Number one, which is kids do well if they can. Okay, so option number one, انت عندك ايه؟ Kids can do well, or kids do well if they can. يعني كده الأطفال بتشتغل كويس أو بتعمل كويس لو يقدروا. أو الأوبشن الثاني, kids do well if they want. يعني الأطفال بتشتغل كويس أو بتعمل كويس لو هم عايزين. إيه رأيكم؟ أنهي واحدة أنتوا شايفينها ماشية هي اللي صح؟
And I'm gonna jump and say the second. مش قولت صح, قولت what I experience.
From experience, okay. This was Abir. Thanks, Abir. مين تاني؟ حد تاني? Anyone has the courage كده يقول? There's no right or wrong. Well, there is, but it's okay. I will explain later.
أنا أعتقد يا باسم إن الاثنين ممكن يمشوا. ليه واحدة منهم؟ ما يمكن الاثنين.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. Yeah. هو يعني the whole point of this إن إحنا لو إحنا شايفين إن الأطفال عايزة تشتغل كويس أو تبقى كويسة لو هم عايزين بس, هتخلينا نعمل رياكشن مختلف معاهم. ان الفريم ورك بتاع دي بقى واحد اسمه دكتور روس جرين, وده انا حتى شفته كذا مره. يعني he's a good psychologist and a researcher. بيقول لو احنا غيرنا الفريم ورك بتاع تفكيرنا, وبدل ما نقول انا ابني او بنتي عايزه تشتغل او تبقى كويس لو هي عايزه او لو هو عايز بس, دي هتخلينا ايه نعمل رياكشن معاه, ونيجاتيف رياكشن ونتخانق واعملي واعمل وكده. بس لو احنا حاسين ان هم they do well لو يقدروا، اوكي، معنى كده لو هم فعلا مش بيعملوا حاجه كويسه او مش قادرين، يمكن في حاجه هي اللي واقفه في السكه واحنا مش عارفين ايه هي ايه. Does that make sense, or should I speak? Is my Arabic bad? Should I go back to English?
It makes
No.
sense.
You are doing good, yeah, باسم. It's okay, fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. فاحنا هنبدأ مع الأطفال. الأطفال بتتعلم ال ABCs وإحنا كمان هنتعلم ال ABCs، أوكي؟ بس إحنا يعني بس لغاية C، أوكي؟ في حاجة اسمها antecedent، أنا عارف كلمة كده صعبة تتقال، وواحدة اسمها behavior وواحدة اسمها consequences. لو إحنا فهمنا ال antecedent وال behavior وال consequence مع الأطفال، ودي خلوا بالكم أطفال صغيرة، يعني أنا مش بتكلم على حد مثلا عنده 15 سنة، بتكلم على حد صغير، أوكي؟ لو فهمنا ال antecedent وال behavior وال consequence ممكن نفهم أطفالنا أكتر، أوكي؟ إيه بقى ال antecedent دي؟ An antecedent is what was the trigger. Okay. يعني إيه اللي خلى حاجة تحصل؟ يعني it can be حاجة very specific. Okay. أو it could be حاجة يعني إيه مش باينة أوي. Okay. فدي الإيه الحاجة اللي ممكن تحصل تخلي الطفل يعمل behavior معين. Okay. ساعات بتبقى باينة أوي وساعات ما بتبقاش باينة. Okay. ده ال A. فال A for antecedents، اوكي، زي ما انتم فاكرين ABC antecedent behavior consequence. فاحنا عرفنا ال A. ال B اللي هي ايه بقى؟ ال child's action. الاكشن بقى based على الحاجه اللي حصلت اللي احنا ما كناش ممكن نكون خدنا بالنا منها وما خدناش بالنا منها، بتخلي ايه الولد يعمل او البنت تعمل اكشن معين. فدي ممكن تكون مثلا لو الطفل في المدرسه يهرب من الفصل او يزعق او يضرب او يعيط، اوكي، دي الحاجات اللي هي تبقى visible بنشوفها، ودي usually دي اللي بتخلينا نعمل reaction او action، اوكي، او response any type of response. فبيحصل ايه في الاخر؟ بيبقى فيه ايه السي الكونسيكونس، الاوتكم بقى اللي ايه اللي احنا بنعمله علشان الاكشن ان الولد او البنت عملته، اوكي. فدي بقى ممكن احنا ايه نزعق لهم، نقول لهم لا، نطلع نطردهم بره الفصل، او مثلا لو هم في ساندي سكول او في الفصل وعيال تانية تضحك، اوكي. فدلوقتي احنا عرفنا ايه ال A وال B وال C antecedents وال behavior وال consequence، اوكي. فالحركات اللي بيعملوها الأطفال دي ممكن علشان هما بيحاولوا يهربوا من حاجة. يعني ممكن مثلا الطفل يبقى إيه، يعني أقول لكم example، ممكن في أطفال بتبقاش شاطرة في الماث، ودي مش عشان مش مسألة إن هما يعني they can't like it's not lack of effort. So مش مسألة إن هما مش قادرين، مش بيحاولوا، هما فعلا بيحاولوا وبيفشلوا. فلو هما مثلا في فصل الماث حاجة صعبة، فعندهم ايه اول ما يجي الماث فالبيهيفير ايه يحاولوا يهربوا يحاولوا يعملوا كده. انا بديكوا اكزامبل ايزي، يعني هي بتبقى it's not usually that easy. فعشان كده ايه فالكونسيكونس ايه ان مثلا المدرس يضرب يعني kicks out the child from class، يطرد كده، فكده ايه يهرب من الماث. Sometimes it could be attention seeking، علشان عارف ان ايه this is the only way مثلا ان الطفل can get attention from the parent او from the teacher or from whomever. Okay. فهو حاجة بقى to warn you the way you respond could be reinforcing the behavior. ففي انواع reinforcement، يعني انا ما اعرفش عارفينها كلمة reinforcement ولا لا، بس reinforcement يعني ايه the likelihood of حاجة تحصل تاني، اوكي. فدلوقتي لو انا مثلا عايز ابقى شاطر في المدرسة، اوكي، وجبت good grade، يعني جبت مثلا يعني a good grade في حاجة، فانا عايز ان ايه ده يحصل تاني. فthat's positive reinforcement بس. فأنا I will give you some examples. فأقوله دلوقتي لو في ولد صغير أوكي مثلا cleaned his room okay و did his homework, so then you give him a positive reinforcement. دي ممكن تكون مثلا extra screen time, candy, take them out, even praise like I love you كده برافو كده. فايه الطفل ينبسط قوي، فايه يقول انا عايز الاحساس ده تاني. they do more of that same behavior. Does that make sense? So this is positive reinforcement. You know, they add something. So you add something. By you adding the praise, okay, you're increasing the behavior. إن هم إيه هيعملوا الbehavior ده تاني. Okay. Negative reinforcement is not punishment. في ناس بتفتكر punishment. لا. Negative reinforcement أنت you take something away to increase the likelihood of a behavior. The easiest way to remember negative reinforcement is like a seat belt. لو قعدتوا في عربية وحطيتوش السيت بيلت هتقعد تعمل أصوات، صوت 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 صوت، okay؟ والصوت ده is very annoying. فعشان تشيل الصوت, so negative reinforcement, you're taking away the sound, you're increasing the likelihood of the behavior which is being safe. So this is an example of negative reinforcement. Okay, I'll give you an example now for a child. Pretend that you're going to the grocery store. Okay, زي الولد الصغنن ده في الصورة. Pretend you're in the grocery store, and then the kid sees a box of candy or chocolate or something they really like. فالولد هيعمل ايه؟ ويقعد يعيط ويصرخ وكده. فدلوقتي you have an option. انت ممكن تديله دي وتسكت، خد 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 اسكت ما تكسفنيش، او انك تطنش. اوكي؟ فلما تعمل بقى لما تطنش that's good. بس لو انت قلت خد 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 سكتنا، انت دلوقتي ايه؟ انت شلت الصوت بتاع العياط والصريخ ده. So then you negative reinforcement. فدلوقتي الولد عرف كل مرة أنا عايز حاجة هعمل لك بقى إيه الأكشن ده تاني. So it's increasing the likelihood of a behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's some general considerations مع أطفال. لازم نعرف إيه اللي حصل. ليه البيهيفير اللي احنا شايفينه ده حصل. فمثلا في الجروسري ستور باينه الولد عيط اول ما شاف مثلا الكاندي. اوكي، بس ساعات ما بتبقاش as clear. So we need to take our time to understand our children. disadvantage مع الأطفال الصغيرة إن verbal comprehension reasoning بتاعهم is not strong. فاحنا we have to really be like investigators or almost detectives كده with our magnifying glass to really get a better understanding of what's going on. Are we taking it personal? ساعات بنحس فعلا ان الطفل بيغيظنا on purpose. ممكن يكون بيغيظنا on purpose، بس بيغيظنا on purpose ليه؟ Do they want more of our time or our attention? Or are they maybe upset about something? So this is a way for them to stay away, okay, or to get close to you, okay? This is a really important one, which is a child's age and development. Sometimes a child's development is not consistent with their age. فساعات يعني I hope all our children are healthy and happy and everything. But ساعات مثلا our children, their developmental process is maybe a little bit behind. Even if a child is tall or big, we think that they're developed like cognitively is that they are the same as their size, but sometimes that's not the case. Okay, so we have to be very mindful that we are like that we have to be mindful of our children's abilities, okay? And I'm not just talking about المخ, but sometimes their speech, sometimes their physical movements. There's lots of things that we have to keep our eyes on with our children to see how well they're doing, okay? Pick your battles. So دي يعني بدل ما نحاول ان احنا نغلطهم في كل حاجة، لا don't do this, do that. على فكرة حكاية no و don't دي is not very good with kids, like young kids. When you tell a kid do not do that, okay, what's hard about that is you are not giving them an alternative. انت بتقول له ما تعملش دي وخلاص، فهو يقول لك حاضر ماشي ممكن، بس more than likely يقول لك الله طب what should I do? So when you say don't do something, I recommend that instead of you saying no, give them a behavior, an alternative instead. Okay? Sometimes you have to pick your battles. مش كل حاجة لازم ايه نوقفهم ونزعق لهم ونقول لهم انتوا غلطتوا وكده. Pick يعني pick. ممكن حاجة تبقى very minor, okay? Just let it go, because برضو السلف esteem بتاع الطفل if we keep saying no لكل حاجة يحسوا ان everything is difficult and then they kind of get upset. So pick your battles. And also في حاجة اسمها planned ignoring. فأنت you are planning to ignore the behavior. I'll give you the example. So do you remember the grocery store example? When the kid was crying in the grocery store, and to stop them from the crying, which is a negative reinforcement, you just gave them the candy so they can be quiet, okay? But sometimes doing planned ignoring is important. عشان هم لو شافوا لو قعدوا يعيطوا وحاجة ما حصلتش الbehavior ده هيقف. يقول لك ده بقى مش نافع منه. That's why you also have to be very consistent. لأنك لو أنت عملتها مرة وعملتهاش مرة تانية وكده دي will actually increase the behavior even more. Does that make sense so far? I hope it is. It's hard when I don't see people. Another thing that you can do is spin things around. بدل ما نقعد نبص هما بيعملوا ايه غلط، بص على الحاجات اللي بيعملوها صح. ساعات احنا become very negative في افكارنا ونبقى ماسكين بس مستنيين يعملوا حاجة غلط. بس ايه طب ايه الاوقات اللي بيعملوا فيها حاجات صح؟ ما هو ساعات بيعملوا حاجات صح وساعات برضو بيعملوا يعني مش بيعملوا حاجات غلط. يعني to me لو طفل ما بيعملش حاجة غلط دي برضو praise them for that. Make them feel positive. Okay, make them aware that you are watching also their good, not just the bad. Okay? Try to be proactive, not reactive. Okay? So ساعات لما الطفل بيعمل حاجة غلط احنا عايزين we're trying very hard ان احنا ايه نعلمهم الصح. بس ساعات it's not the right time. Like if a child is crying and screaming and all these things, that's probably not the time to have any sort of communication. This is the time they need to kind of just be on their own so they can catch their breath, to self-regulate, okay? Children's regulation is hard when they're really little. Their regulation gets better with age, but they're still they're still very young. So they need to be able to learn how to regulate. So the best thing is to reduce the language when there is a big conflict or something like that. Sometimes you talk to them after things have calmed down a little bit. Don't talk to them when things are heated up. Be empathetic and validating. So مش بس اللي احنا بنقوله بس الطريقة اللي احنا بنقولها. يعني ممكن ساعات ان في مثلا طفل يقول لك ايه this is unfair. مش لازم احنا نقول لا unfair ازاي احنا عملنا لك كده احنا عملنا لك كده. No. Be empathetic. قول له I understand you're upset. اوكي على كده هما بيشوفوا ان انت شايف ان ايه they feel sad. Does that make sense? So you're not saying, oh, you have the right to be sad. We're not saying that. We're just validating. We're actually noticing that they are upset right now. Okay? So it's really important to notice that. And validating. So what you're saying to them as well. يعني مثلا لو واحد مثلا ايه trying to be validating, okay? So one expression is, for example, I understand you are upset. Okay? لو احنا بنقولها واحنا على التليفون I understand you're upset او I understand you're upset. طب ما كده الطفل برضه especially because their language is not strong يقول لك ايه ده I don't think they understand anything at all. But if you're actually empathetic, Habibi, I understand you're upset right now. This will work very differently. Be collaborative. Collaborative يعني نشتغل مع بعض. Learn more about sorry, this was supposed to be for the servants. So learn more about your child. Okay? So ask more questions, talk to the teachers and get more information to see what's going on. How are they at home versus at school? Because this is actually a really, really important thing. Is it possible that maybe our child is acting out at home, but not acting out at school, or the other way around? So we need to be asking questions. So instead of saying discuss with parents, as you see it here in number 6, see it more as discuss with teachers and servants, etc. And as I mentioned before, you have to be consistent. So you can't say, okay, أنا همشي بالطريقة دي 2 times and then stop. And then say, oh, this didn't work. طبعا it's not gonna work. Okay? You have to be consistent with your approach. If there are 2 parents involved, like a mom and dad, you guys need to be on board. You can't have one person doing it one way and have another person doing it another way. It's gonna confuse your child. So I will now talk about adolescents and teenagers, and I'm happy to take like some more examples and things and discussions at the end, okay? So obviously adolescents are more complex than children because now at that age, their verbal reasoning is a lot more developed. So they can actually discuss and tell you how they feel, sort of, okay? So what I'm saying here in a guiding principle in the behavior still could in part be due a lagging skill. So we need to keep an eye on why they're doing the things that they're doing. But there are lots of factors. في حاجات كتيرة بتحصل بتخلينا نشوف مثلا الطفل اللي هو كان مؤدب وكويس وهادي فجأة لما became a teenager something happened. But one factor is the physical and physiological. فدي could be due to hormones. Okay? So at that age, I mean, I feel like it's getting younger and younger, but like for some girls, it's as early as like maybe even 9 or 10 that they start having more of the adolescent sort of behaviors, and even like they're getting their like menstruation and things like that. For boys, it's usually around 12 and 13 when they start noticing a lot of changes in their bodies, and it's a very confusing time for them. So that could also lead to some of the behaviors that we're seeing. Sociological يعني society, being social, الحاجات دي, this is under sociological. دي فيها حاجات كتيرة. التينيجرز والادolescents بيحبوا يعملوا ايه حاجة اسمها conformity. Conformity يعني ما بيحبوش انهم يبقوا مختلفين. يعني ما فيش طفل, كل الأطفال نفسها مش طفل سوري, كل التينيجرز بيحبوا ان هم ايه يبقوا like each other. They're kind of together and oh, I have the same this, the same that. At my time, you know, you must have a t-shirt that has Nike on it. That was like the big thing when I was little. Or the Adidas logo. This was like the very, very important thing. So there's this part called conformity. So they don't want to feel isolated from others. But at the same time, they're egocentric. But yeah, it's kind of confusing because it sounds like opposite to each other, but they're consistent. So they want to feel like they belong, they're conforming, but they're also egocentric. فهم حاسين إن العالم كله يعني إيه revolves around them. They want to feel unique. عايزين يحسوا رغم إن هم عايزين يبقوا a part of like society ويبقى كله زي بعض، بس they want to feel like they're unique. بيحسوا إن يعني لو مثلا بيقول لك حبيبي في المشكلة ها، هم يقولوا لك you can never understand how I feel. I don't know if I can't see your faces, but I'm sure you've heard this from your teenage daughter or son. You can never understand what I'm going through. Okay? So they feel like their struggles are unique. وفي حاجة اسمها imaginary audience. Imaginary يعني خيال، audience يعني الناس، يعني انتوا technically are audience. فما بيحسوا ان اي حاجة بتحصل لهم ان الناس كلها عمالة تتفرج عليها. يعني بيحسوا ان كل حاجة، فهم that's why it's egocentric. Egocentric يعني عندهم يعني فاكرين ان العالم يعني the whole world revolves around them. So that's why they would like to conform. They're egocentric in that they think that their issues are unique, but at the same time, all their behaviors, they feel like the whole world is watching them. So an example, like one example is, if I don't know if this happened to you guys or not as parents, but I remember this when I was a kid. I would go to the mall with my parents, and I would get so embarrassed if I see my friends seeing me with my parents. Yeah, don't be offended, parents. Especially if Baba's like, oh, what do you think of these shorts or these pants or this shirt or whatever? I'm like, oh, don't. I feel like the whole world is watching when no one really cares. Okay. So here are some general considerations for adolescents and teenagers. Do not judge them. What you're saying and how you say it is very important. So be inquisitive. Inquisitive يعني ايه؟ اسأل أسئلة. اسأل أسئلة كتير. ها ايه الأخبار؟ طب قولي ليه بتقول كده؟ ليه حاسس كده؟ من غير ما ايه get into like an aggressive tone with them. Okay? To do that, here are some words that you can use. So if they say something, instead of saying انت عملت كده علشان عايز تهرب من دي او انت عشان عملت كده، لا get more information. فاقول tell me more. اقول help me understand. Help me understand is a very powerful statement for an adolescent, because this shows that you are forming an alliance with them. You're forming this relationship and you actually are involved and you are emotionally involved. Okay? Avoid assumptions. زي ما أنا قلت، ما تقولش أنت عملت كده عشان كده. بدل ما تعمل assuming، ask the question instead. Okay? This is really important. Now, for parents, I hope your children and your adolescents are very honest with you. Okay? That means that you have a good relationship with them. And in order to do that, you need to be ready. Okay? شايفين كريمر؟ أنا ما أعرفش حد شاف الشو ده قبل كده بتاع ساينفيلد. Do not make that face. ساعات إحنا ممكن our children will tell us something that is very against maybe our beliefs as Christian Coptic or as a culture, as Egyptian, or as even human beings, okay? But how you respond to that will be very important, because are you inviting them to talk to you again about a problem? Or the minute that you make that face, they will know I will never be able to go talk to them about anything again. Okay? And I know it's really hard. And I remember when I did this presentation to the servants last time, someone said, how do I prepare myself for this? And it's really hard to prepare yourself for that. But I think the best thing to do is be prepared and just pray that everything's okay, but have like a face where you're not showing any strong emotions. Okay? So what does not just what your words are saying, but what is your body saying? So just kind of like Kramer, the guy in the show, like in the GIF here, right? That shows that you're in complete shock and maybe you're in complete disagreement. Be an active listener, okay? So there's a difference between hearing someone and listening to someone, okay? So listen with your ears and with your body language. So if you're talking to me and I'm on my phone, okay, that's not good active listening, okay? I might be hearing you, but it just shows that I'm not really involved in the conversation, okay? So good body language is that you're nodding with them. Maybe you're kind of moving forward a bit, showing that you are involved in the conversation. And of course, with your responses, okay? Here are some other examples to be a good active listener. And I always mention my dog in some capacity. You'll notice that I have like a duct tape here. And I have that for a reason, okay? We as parents, and I'm a new parent, so I think I'm gonna end up being the same way. But as parents, we want to fix our children's problems. We hate seeing them in any pain. We want to give them as much wisdom. We want to offer them as many solutions. We want the best for our kids. And I think that's probably normal. But sometimes what we're doing is we're trying to just fix the problem and we're not giving them what they're looking for. So when they're upset about something, okay, now Abuna, please forgive me, but I think you agreed with me. Yes, it's important to pray about something, but when someone is coming to you with a problem and say, okay, ruh salli, you're basically saying, I didn't hear you at all. أنت عندك مشكلة كده، طب روح صلي. As much as that is actually really good advice, and it's something that we want our children to do when they are facing a problem, okay, that advice can still be given, but there's maybe some steps that we need to do first, which is attend to their emotion. Oh, like for example, they're telling you about something at school that's really hard or difficult, or maybe they got into a fight with their friends, okay? So the first thing we do is like, oh, Habibi, like, I can tell that you're really upset about this, okay? Telling them that you understand what they're going through. Think about, I mean, maybe Rogers is not the best example right now, but think of when your internet service or your phone service or whatever goes out, okay? And you call Rogers or Bell and you complain and say, I am so frustrated, I can't go on the internet. What do? They don't tell you, oh, you did it wrong, or you should have done this. They actually try to validate, be like, oh, you know what? I can understand this is very frustrating for you. I'm sure you have lots of things that you need to do. And that, in a way, as much as you might still be frustrated, will calm you down a little bit, because it's telling you that this person who's listening to you is understanding your problem, okay? So even Rogers and Bell are doing, so why can't we do it with our kids? Another positive or a good thing to do is to paraphrase what they said. Sometimes by doing that, so paraphrasing is repeating, it's not necessarily repeating what they're saying word for word. It's more ان هم احنا نقول اللي هم قالوه بس بطريقه مختلفه سنه، وايه يعني كانك what's the word in Arabic؟ يعني بتدي خلاصه على اللي هم قالوه. يعني انت مشكلتك ان انت متضايق علشان دي ودي ودي، صح؟ فدي ايه كده، انت بتعمل confirmation معاهم انك بتفهم المشكله او فاهم المشكله. ساعات بنبقى فاكرين ان احنا فاهمين المشكله، بس ده اليوث يقول لك لا انت فهمتني غلط، انا دي كده كده كده، بس مش هيبقى زعلان ان هو يصلحك، هيبقى مبسوط او مش مبسوط، بس يبقى ايه good positive environment. because ليه؟ عشان ايه؟ انت بتحاول معاهم تفهم المشكله. Okay? Does that make sense? So this is important. ففي ساعات برضو احنا لازم نفهم مشاكل اصحابنا. فانا هقول لك دي الكلبه بتاعتي، فدايما انا I love my dog so much وسمعتوها when she barks. فدلوقتي مثلا لو انا رحت قلت لحد قول يعني God forbid ان مايلي my dog ماتت، في يعني ايه a couple of options. فانا ممكن لو قلت لواحد my dog died وانا زعلان، يقول لي it's okay get another dog. لو انا حد قال لي كده دي معناها ايه؟ You're trying to fix the problem. يبقى انا in the absence of a dog باسم is sad. فانا ايه to replace the sadness هتكلم. Does that mean they really understand how I'm feeling? No, it doesn't. And that's why I have that duct tape picture, because we're trying to fix the problem without attending to their emotion. Sometimes we don't need to fix their problem. Sometimes they don't want advice. Sometimes they want to feel like they have been heard. So that's why I have this one here now. Is it advice that they want? Because sometimes it's not advice that they want. They just want to feel heard. They want to feel that they can share with you a problem or whatever the case is. Okay? And another point here is keep the focus on them. ساعات احنا نقول لك لما واحد مثلا يقول لك في مشكلة يقول لك عارف أنا كانت عندي نفس المشكلة زمان وتقعد تتكلم عن نفسك. That's very frustrating for a youth because you want the attention to be on them and they want that attention to be on them as well. Okay? Try to avoid things like yeah but. Okay? لما تقول yeah but بالعربي يعني ايه بس. It's funny to translate. Yeah but as soon as you say yeah okay أنا سمعتك بس أول ما تقول the word but you're basically saying it doesn't matter anything that you just said. Here's what it's supposed to be. Does that make sense? So it does not validate anything. So it's better to not use the words yeah but because you're basing بس كده يعني انت تقول انا سمعتك بس مش مهم. Okay, so it's better to use better terms like yeah and is an alternative of yeah but. There's also a difference between I know versus I understand. I know معناها انك عارف هما بيحسوا بايه and maybe you don't know. So it's better to say I understand. أنا فهمتك بدل ما تقول أنا عارف. Okay, محدش بيحب واحد اللي هو in English we call it like a know-it-all, someone who knows everything. Okay, but when you say okay I think I understand, they will listen better to that. That means that you are truly trying to understand. If you say I know, then they might say, well, if you know, how are you like you clearly don't know. Okay, so as I said, is it wrong to say just pray? The answer is no, of course it's not wrong to say just pray, but that can be your first line of defense when there's a problem, because it might come off as much as the intention is good, and yes, we need to teach our children and our youth to pray when there's a problem or in the absence of a problem. But when you say just pray, first of all, it shows that you are not actively listening to them whatsoever. Second of all, just pray. بس صلي, and that's it. That means that there's nothing else to be done and that I don't want to hear this. And I know, and we all know that that's not what we mean. We actually mean that we want them to pray. So that's why we need to attend their emotions first, paraphrase if needed, keep the focus on them, find out if it's advice that they're looking for or if they just want to talk. Watch the words that you say, and then on top of all that say, okay, Mina or Marina, and make sure you also pray about this, and maybe we can pray together. Okay? All right, so now we're going to move on to the older teenagers and the young adults. At this point, now we talked about emotional regulation. Emotional regulation at this time typically improves. Okay? But they are dealing with added stressors. So we as a very successful community, we care about grades and we care about success and we care about school and what's next and what's so on. So they're facing a lot of stressors. What's going to happen? And they might say, what if to you all the time. Okay. And now is probably the time where they're also maybe considering a relationship and at the same trying to please the parents. Okay. So the considerations here is it's very similar with teenagers, but make sure you're treating them like an adult. That's why I have this picture of an adult here wearing like a child thing. is that you're not supposed to treat them like that. You're supposed to treat them as an adult with respect, and this way they can actually listen to you more. Okay, so this is my presentation part. I'm just going to give you a quick summary, and then I'm happy to answer questions and have a fruitful discussion. So your response is based on how you view the situation. So can versus want. So kids can do well if they can versus kids can do well if they want. If you decide to see it as kids can do well if they can, you'll probably have better outcomes. If you think it's versus if it's what they want, or they want to control this and that's it, you might take it more personal, and then you become more reactive with them. Undesirable behaviors could be the outcome of lagging skills or something missing. So this is something I didn't talk too much about, but that antecedent or whatever it is, as I mentioned, it could be maybe because they're struggling in math, or maybe they have attention issues, or they might have social issues, or they might have reading issues, or it could be vision, hearing. There's a lot of lagging issues that we might not necessarily know because it's not visible to us. Think of what leads to the behavior and if your response makes it better or worse. So as an example, the grocery store, right? If we're gonna give the kid the candy every time they cry, now we know that this is negative reinforcement, and they're more likely to do that again and again. Be proactive and collaborative, okay? So instead of working against them, work with them. Practice good communication, saying things like, I understand, I see that you're upset here, being calm, okay? And that is basically it. So sorry if I took too long. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this point.
Thank you so much, Basim. God bless you, Habib. Bless your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time for us. انت اديتونا النهارده. لو في any questions أو any concerns ممكن نقولها للدكتور باسم.
عندي سؤال concerning when you said we need to give them دايما alternative behavior بدل ما نقول لهم don't do this نقول لهم do this. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Okay.
وخصوصا لما تكون حاجة يعني it have to be like an order. لو كانت حاجة let's say he's close to a barbecue, close to a hot stuff, يعني you can't touch it. I can't see it some other way. When it's like that and we're stuck, how can you approach it? وبعد كده عندي سؤال تاني على برضو السيتويشن بتاعت الجروسري ستور دي.
Yeah, sure. So I think it depends on the age, right? So like if it's like a really little kid, you just have to stop that behavior because you don't want them to hurt themselves. Okay. So you do that and then be like, you can take them aside, be like, Habibi, you can't do that because it will hurt. Okay. Here. And so the alternative here is you can even ask them if they're older enough, right? You can even ask them, what would you like to do instead? Okay. And sometimes if they're young enough, like maybe 7, 8, or maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older, we as parents should be smarter. So we can tell them, give them a choice. They feel like they're in control, but you're really in control. So would you like to do this, this, or this? They're going to be like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, go ahead. So then they feel good that they made a choice, and you feel good because you made them make a choice.
Okay. طب وبالنسبة للسيتويشن بتاعت الجروسري ستور أنا just taking it as a behavior pattern بس it's the perfect example. وانت في الستور والkid always use the perfect opportunity, like right now we am on the phone, come ask for something that they shouldn't be asking for. The same pattern always repeated. When we are in the store, they do something that they shouldn't be doing. No matter how you prepare, no matter how you give them stuff to be busy with علشان ما تتعرضش للموقف ده. صعب ان انت ignore sometimes.
So what is it like? What is the behavior? Like, is it a behavior you want them to stop?
Yes.
What is that behavior?
So I'm gonna use the grocery store as an example. If they cry and they want something desperately and they throw a tantrum, I want this, and they make a scene.
Yeah.
How can you choose your battle? You are in the middle of a grocery store. To be honest,
this one
maybe
you
it's a
can't
culture
ignore.
thing بس I cannot let it go يعني ما انا هفرج عليا الناس برضو.
Yeah, خلي الناس تتفرج. Seriously, it's just the thing is when you think of it like I use dogs as an example, not that our kids are dogs or anything, because just like it's an easy thing, okay?
Okay.
There's something called extinction. So if I told this dog, for example, every time I say sit, it gets a treat, okay? Sometimes after a while, when you tell them sit and you don't give them a treat, after you do it for a very long time, okay, without the treat, they might not listen to you as much. So there's like an extinction factor here. So you need to introduce the treat again. It's the same way, the opposite way around. So if we see that a kid is acting out, if we respond to that by or okay, you are now making that behavior so much stronger that it's going to be worse the next time. So the best thing is you can tell them quietly, be like, look, no means no, okay? And then see what happens. If they do, be like, okay, I told you no means no. I am sorry you feel that way. And then we walk out of the grocery store and that's it. Okay? So like, I think sometimes, and that's why it's good to do it when they're younger and younger, right? Because the younger that they do it, they realize it's not going to happen. And guess what? If you'd said no, or you walked away, or you ignored 4 times, and then the fifth time you didn't, oh, you better watch out, because they're going to be even more explosive the next time. Now you've reinforced it again, and they're aware that it's going to take a lot more fighting from you. Okay. So you want to extinct that behavior. No problems. But you want to make sure that it doesn't matter what they do. If they went on the ground and start rolling, whatever. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go home now. Bye. You know, and then just so they know it's like, okay, like it's kind of like there's nothing they can do about it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No problems. Oh, I think Sherry's typing. Sometimes we need to lay the rules of the grocery store before going in. Plan is you'll help me pick up which fruits, don't play with, okay. Yeah, so sometimes getting them to be an active role, right? So telling them, can you help me with things, is a good one. And actually telling them in advance is also a good thing. So very good. Thank you, Sherry. Any other questions? I hope this was helpful.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bاسم.
Okay, thank you for inviting me.
تفضلوا نصلي. بسم الله والابن والروح القدس الآن واحد امين. نشكرك يا رب يسوع المسيح على محبتك يا رب ورعايتك لينا. نشكرك يا رب على هذه الأيام الحلوة اللي احنا عايشين فيها يا رب، بركة صوم ساداتنا الآباء الرسل. ونشكرك يا رب على الكلمة الحلوة اللي سمعناها النهاردة يا رب. أرجوك يا رب ادي كل يا رب أب وأم أو كل خادم وخادمة يا رب بيخدموا في مجال يا رب تربية الأطفال، ادينا يا رب كلنا الحكمة في التعامل. قوينا يا رب كلنا عشان نتعلم، مش عاوزين نتعلم يا رب ازاي نتعامل مع بعض وازاي نتعامل مع أولادنا عشان نكسبهم. ادينا يا رب الصبر والاحتمال، وادينا القدرة على التعلم يا رب. بارك يا رب في كل كلمة اتقالت النهاردة، تكون سبب بركة لكل واحد يا رب في أسرته، عشان يا رب أنت تعلم يا رب إن تربية الأطفال عملية صعبة، والتعامل مع النفوس يا رب أمر صعب، ونحتاج يا رب أن نصلي ليلا ونهارا بكل دقيقة يا رب من أجل أولادنا، إنك تحفظ حياتهم يا رب من كل شر، وتدي يا رب كل الآباء يا رب والأمهات الحكمة والصبر وطولة البال يا رب في التعامل معهم. محتاجين يا رب إيدك تسندنا كلنا، محتاجين يا رب روح الحكمة وروحك القدوس يا ربي عشان يعلمنا يا رب كيف يا رب نخدم أولادنا، عشان نربيهم يكونوا يا رب برضو أباء وأمهات يا رب صالحين، وتستمر يا رب الكنيسة من جيل إلى جيل. باركنا كلنا يا رب، كل الحاضرين موجودين معانا وكل اللي ما بيكونش موجودين بسبب أي ظرف من الظروف يا رب عاقبتهم على الاجتماع. اجعل يا رب الكلمة تكون سبب بركة لينا وليهم. عوض يا رب باسم عن تعب محبته النهاردة يا ربي، هو وبيته وأسرته. باركنا يا رب كل بركة روحية ترانا في احتياج إليها، واستجيب لينا بشفاعته من العذراء مريم رئيس الملائكة جليل ميخائيل قديس أنبتكله هيمنوت، وبركة صوم سادات الآباء الرسل. اسمعنا يا رب نقول لك بالشكر: يا أبانا الذي في السماوات قدس اسمك، يأتي ملكوتك، تكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا كفافنا أعطينا اليوم، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا المذنبين إلينا، لكن نجينا من الشرير بالمسيح يسوع ربنا، لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد. محبة الله الآب ونعمة الابن الوحيد وشركة وعطية وموهبة روح القدس تكون مع جميعكم. امضوا بالسلام، سلام الرب يكون معكم.